Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our RP series. We're continuing where we left off at the beginning of 1952. We're staying in the screen to give me time to talk for a minute. But yes, we're looking at what contracts we have, verifying what we're going to get done today. So, excuse me for the absence. For the long break, we had a problem with the recording. You'll see that in a little bit, where I lost some footage. I lost about 30 minutes worth. I lost about an hour's worth of footage. I had condensed down to 30 minutes, so I had to redo it all. So I only have like a 20-minute episode. So yeah. So we're just checking any contracts we could take, and ones we already have, just reading. Trying to decide if there are any contracts we could do today. There really isn't, besides like one. There's one contract we could do today. It's the sounding rocket one, and I'm just looking at the prizes and making sure I can get it done in time. There is a brief. There's a test I'm going to need to be. There's some things I need to be doing. So we'll get to that in a minute when we get there. For now, we got rocket launches we're gonna be doing. I'm just reading all the contracts, and then I decide I'm not gonna take any of them. And then actually, I think I do eventually. I go out and I look at what time it is, and then I come back in and read some more, and I decide not to take any of these contracts, I don't think, or I take one. I really need to start writing me a script. Nope, it looks like I decide not to. We're gonna, after deciding not to, I'm gonna do a test. That's what this is I was looking at the contract, I wrote down how much it was. I'm doing a quick save, and I'm seeing if I can get more money out of the contract that I want to take, the sounding rocket one. And eventually I do find that it is possible for you to roll a higher amount. It takes me a couple tries. I just wanted to put this in so you guys can see. Sometimes we'll see if I can get more out of a contract than, you know, I would normally get if I had accepted it right away. And sometimes I do, if I wait a little while, if I push it to like as close to the last minute as I can get. I can sometimes get more money. Especially if I have a rocket that I have designed to already do that mission. That I could get more money out of it. And the thing is I know I could do this mission. Problem is the rocket I built it in, it succeeded in simulations, but fails in the real thing. And by the time I built the rocket more stable, it failed. So I actually gonna have to redo that contract in 1953. I think, no, I got it right at the end of 1952. Again, I lost footage, so I have to remember all this off the top of my head. My recording got corrupted, so yeah. I need at the end of 1952, like 60 days before 1953 starts, I get the contract, but I do fail it once. The sounded contract once contract. So yeah, that's just what I'm doing, is I'm writing numbers down, verifying. I just have decided to put this in and show y'all, because this is the only footage from my video that I could recover. Is this in like the first launch. So this and like our very first launch are the only footage I could really get from my recording. Everything else after that is Everything else after that is stuff I had to re-record. It's why it's more rushed after the first launch. And despite rushing through it, this is still like almost a 20-minute long video. I would have preferred it to be 30 minutes and full of all the stuff that I actually did. But I'm still in the sounding rocket stage, so you guys didn't miss much. Me launching a couple of sounding rockets. Considering they take like 100 days, and I think the curable year, I don't know if it's changed in rp1, but by default it's like 600 days. Oh no, it's like 80 days, I think it is now. It's 80 days for me, or something like that, 80. I think by the end of 1952, I think it's still 80. I think it's not 120, I know that anymore. I think it's 100 or just under 100. It's like 90 or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. So I really need, with like 3 months, I could only get like, even if it is 60, it's probably more like 90. A little under 90, it's like 86. I really do think it's 86 off the top of my head. Oh no, I may have lost the first flight. I don't think I did. Oh, I did. I thought I recovered it. Yep. Showing the difference between my rockets. Yeah, I built. Showing the what rockets I did launch. Yep, I didn't record. I didn't. I guess I only managed to get the contract back from the first recording. This is the rocket I ended up with by the end of 1952. Sorry. Let's sneeze. Yeah. By the end of 1952, beginning in 1953, this is the rocket that will guaranteed do my sounding rocket contracts. Depending on how I use it, it will get just barely over 40,000, and then it will get over 50,000, almost 60,000 if I use it correctly. Now, this is so I can get the two most common sounding rocket contracts, which are 40 and 50. The other three, the other Mach 3s were, so in simulation could make it above 40,000 with an even smaller margin. But in the real thing, the simulation showed they'd like the side slip, but the real thing just turns too far to the side. And this is the first recreated launch. No, I think this might have been. Yeah, this might have actually been the first launch of the recording. I go more in depth later in a minute of what each of those rockets look like. Yeah. Basically, my recording crashed shortly after, got corrupted shortly after this, to the point I couldn't recover it, and even this footage is kind of not wanting to behave. So, yeah. I have to speak up because there is rocket noises going on. I need to remember that. Loud rocket noises. I need to probably turn that down in post-editing. Here's the problem with 3.1. I think this is the Mach 3.1. Yeah, this is when my recording software crashes. I think. No. I managed to get, yeah, this is where I managed to get it back. It crashes, and I did a revert. Because my game will crashes, I think. right after what would be my first launch. It crashed during that launch, actually, technically speaking. The recording did, and I just re-simulated it, and actually managed to flawlessly do that. So yay! But here's a more in-depth difference between the Mach 3 and the... Yeah, this is the Mach 3. I was showing what the Mach 3 does, and why it was redesigned to the Mach 3.1, as I gave it more tiny rocket boosters to help spin it, thinking that would help. Yeah, it didn't. It does, and it side slips much less. What is fixing to be shown off in the rocket simulation in a minute. I didn't mean to actually launch it. So, I meant to simulate it, and I'm going to do that. This one, it has another set of rocket boosters to help spin it. This helps immensely. It side slips less, but still more than I wanted it to. I did launch this rocket for real, in the real thing. Because in the simulations, I showed that if I time it right, I could get it up to 40,000. There's a problem with that, though, is I have to time it right. And I did it correctly in the video, but it was really hard. And I didn't do it in this one because I couldn't remember what the timing was like. So eventually it does side slip, and it still has one of the other problems I have with the Mach 3s. There is a 3.5, and it will later become, it's a test, and then it later becomes a Mach 4 for 1953. So the Mach 3.5 does not change much and becomes a Mach 4. But this is Mach 3.1. What you saw before that had one set of solid rocket boosters to spin it was a Mach 3, and its difference between it, as you see, it side slips like that, and it just turns over itself. It just falls over and eventually goes 90 degrees, about like 30,000, 20,000, because of the oscillations and the spin. And yeah, so the Mach 3s and the Mach 2 difference is the Mach 3s have those solid rocket boosters and the slightly wider base and more powerful engine. Here's the Mach 3.5. It has a solid rocket booster. Two of them turn sideways that launch off to spin it quite a distance. Now, it does this really fast and loses a lot of altitude because of it. So, but it is the rocket that can, guaranteed, no matter what I do, at least get up to 43, even if I leave those boosters on till about the time it stages. Actually, that's what I do when I just barely want to get above 40,000 for a contract, is I just leave the boosters on. Taking the boosters off as soon as they run out gives me up to 50,000. And the difference between it and its Mach 4 counterpart is I turn those solid rocket boosters, I turn the thrust way down. There's a crazy thrust to weight ratio of like, when on this rocket, of like 11. This stage has the stage that we're currently on when the rocket boosters are on it, has a solid thrust to weight ratio of like 11. So yeah, I turn it down and it has a thrust to weight ratio still pretty high, but Not no 11. I turned it down to like 10%, and it has a thrust to weight ratio I think of like 2. Still faster than I want, but that's like as low as I can lower it. And then I have some science equipment attached to it because it gets above 40,000. Like I will show, I let this rocket go until it gets to 40,000 to show it does get that high. Now the audio might sound weird on this clip, and that's because the audio glitched out on this one. And this was my second tape, but the audio glitched out because my microphone decided to quit midway on me. So this is all post-production rocket noises that I just recorded in game. I just launched the rocket. I didn't really launch it, I've basically got a sandbox mode that I just got this sound from and just looped it. That's what you're hearing, so it might not exactly line up to what's actually happening. In case anyone's wondering why the sound is weird. Again, my microphone is fixed. I got all this done and fixed, so we shouldn't have this problem anymore. So, this is why this is all happening. Episode 3 should come out a little faster now that I have my new mic and can not have to worry about losing footage, because I figured out why I was losing footage, why I lost footage anyways. Yes, and that's what we're doing, is we're just waiting until it's above 40,000, and then once it does, I think it gets all the way up to 60 actually. Before I finally let it go, before I finally revert it in the simulator. Now, there is a slight problem with the Mach 3.5 that isn't changed in the Mach 4. Or any of the Mach 3s really, even though they can all get up to 40,000, even though the other ones are crappy at that. But they do go sideways, which is useful for certain milestones, so I guess launching them, I can't control what direction they go, but you know, launching them is a good way to, with their side slip, to get them to go downward if I get a downrange contract. And that's the end of that after it gets to range. Now, as I said, the difference between the Mach. So I need to, they only have regular parachutes, they don't have drag chutes, so I have to like perfectly time when I have to wait for it to be so slow and below a certain altitude before I can pull my main chute. So I probably, with the Mach 4 having more science equipment to get more science, I should probably include a drag chute. And I will probably edit it to have a drag chute after this recording, before it launches for episode 3. The 3.5 launches, I think, once in actuality in this episode. Like all the way through and recovered and all of that, but I wasn't doing all that. I didn't have the time to re-record all of that, unfortunately, but you guys will get a full launch.